Calaroga Shark Media.
If you don't like the intersection of comedy and politics, then skip today. Otherwise, hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Bill Maher, for some reason, received the newly unrenamed Kennedy Center's Mark Twain Prize for Comedy. Bill Maher said, "Now the president, when he is in attack mode, never fails to say that I'm part of the lunatic left." Okay, he's not wrong that there is one. I'm just not part of it, and I'm sure there is a lunatic right. And when either side gets mad at me because I put them in jokes that work, my message to them is simple. You want to not get mocked? Stop being funny. Then the jokes will work. When they're ridiculous, they do work, and when people laugh, you're caught. Laughter is involuntary. It's people's inescapable truth detector, whether they want to believe or not. Before the ceremony, Maher talked to reporters about the possibility of Trump himself showing up. Maher said, because anything's possible with him, that didn't happen. But Matt Friend came to the stage and imitated Trump. Matt Friend Trump said, "I get so many more laughs than this guy," and demanded the award. Bill Maher said, "Just take it. I'm used to losing awards," and then noted that he'd received 41 nominations but has continuously lost. Bill Maher said, "I lost 1 year to the Yule log. Is it something I said? It's everything I said." The ceremony featured many clips, including his time at ABC with Politically Incorrect, as well as his stand-up specials and podcasts. Louis C.K. was there. Louis C.K. said, "I am not a political guy. I wrote one joke about Trump, but it took me about 18 months. Now, I don't even know if I can repeat this joke without getting a visit from people." Of Bill Maher, Louis C.K. said, "He's not a guy who gives an F about what people think of him. My career took a downturn, but then I heard from Bill with an invite to appear on a show. He offered to help me when no one else would. And he's a good guy. He has a heart." C.K. said Maher earned the honor by being a constant and hilarious force in American comedy for many years. Whitney Cummings said, "I actually heard Trump may come tonight, but he couldn't make it. He got caught in sex traffic." Bill Maher himself called out the left, noting recent efforts to censor Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn because it uses racist language. Maher said, "The silly purists on the left want to ban it now, which just shows you if you hang around long enough and create something important enough, everyone hates you at some point, and that's when you know you're doing it right." His point there was that the racist language is in the service of mocking racism. Bill Maher praised his audience, saying, "People say they want honesty. They don't. They want to live in a bubble. They say they want to be challenged. They don't. Except for my audience. They love it, and I love it for them. And I'm sorry. I think it makes them better. Why? Because I don't ask to please the audience. I ask what's true, and they're okay with that. They are a unique group of people who do not demand to be pandered to, and in fact, want me not to do that, and it has been the honor of a lifetime to try and lead a backlash to groupthink." The event will stream on Netflix July 21st. This is not quite the Conan O'Brien event of last year. Woody Harrelson said people generally come up here and talk about how great the nominee is, but I've decided to be honest. I've known Bill a long time, since back when he was funny. I'll say this, he has impeccable taste in friends. We're both outspoken in our beliefs. I not only admire you, but you're one of the funniest, smartest, greatest people I know. I love you, brother. Woody also joked about the center's temporary name change there. Woody Harrelson said, "An award for my dear friend. Ironically, at the Trump Kennedy Center." Oh, right, we fixed that. Not so you'd be able to notice. In case you don't know, they still have scaffolding out front, so you can't see the name at all. Jay Leno was there. I'm not seeing much about what Jay Leno said or didn't, and believe me, I looked, because I even found that Jay Leno stopped by an iconic DC Italian restaurant. That's right. Jay Leno was at Filomena Ristorante. The restaurant shared photos of Jay Leno's visit, as writing, "Look who's dining at Filomena. Jay Leno, the celebrated comedian, writer, and former late-night host, is scheduled to be a guest speaker at the Kennedy Center, presenting Bill Maher with the esteemed Mark Twain Award for American Humor. He thoroughly enjoyed his lunch today and left a sweet note for Joanna Filomena. For many years, Joanna has been a great fan of his." But if Jay Leno had some jokes, I can't tell you what they were. Bill Maher said, "This really does mean a lot to me. Believe me, when they called and said, 'Would you accept this?' they didn't have to ask twice. My speech tonight will be mostly thank yous, as it should be, to all the people who believed in me, supported me, the fans who stood by me, because, once in a while, I did get in a spot of trouble." He said he was most proud of staying on the air for 33 years without ever pulling a punch on a show, mostly without stars. Sylvie McNamara wrote for the Washingtonian, "Things felt weird" at the Kennedy Center's Mark Twain Prize. Sylvie writes, "Throughout the evening, there were some laughs and a smidge of gaiety, but overall it was fairly sedate. Whole swaths of balcony seats stood empty. Volunteer seat fillers meant to plump up the crowd for the TV cameras were given the option to bring up to 5 guests. Whitney Cummings opened by describing how strange it is that Bill Maher would choose to be a political comedian as opposed to any other type. She compared it to a surgeon choosing colorectal specialty. Both involve spending one's life examining a-holes. Cummings added, if that metaphor was too weird, I have another one that can help you understand how masochistic it is to do what Bill Maher does. Being a political comedian is like being a sports commentator who chooses only to talk about the Washington Commanders. That got a cheer from the hometown. Or as Bill calls them, the Redskins. Oh, wait, this does have a Jay Leno joke. Jay Leno said, for the second time in our nation's capital, there's a big, beautiful Bill in Washington. Boy, that's awful. You know, the Kennedy Center was not Bill's first choice, but the Playboy Mansion was unavailable. Jay Leno, everybody. A little behind the scenes, Johnny Mac has a clogged ear, and I am struggling to do the show today because I'm trying to explain. I'm kind of in my own head when I'm speaking, so I don't sound to myself the way I normally sound. It's very annoying. Cheryl Hines has shown support for MAGA comedian Nate Bargatze. That's right. We're now describing Nate Bargatze, who went to a UFC fight, as MAGA comedian Nate Bargatze. So what did Nate do now? Well, he posted a short clip of live stand-up performance on Instagram on Sunday featuring Nate alone on stage talking about his experience trying to buy a hammock. Cheryl Hines publicly liked the post. However, the most liked comment on the video, we are told, reads, Nate, how was the carnival on the WH lawn? The second most liked says, we remember. MAGA comedian Nate Bargatze, everybody, went to a UFC fight once. So did Shane Gillis. Michelle Wolf was talking about her appearance at the 2018 White House Correspondents' Dinner. Trump did not attend that dinner. Michelle Wolf said, if there was anything I could go back and do again, I would be meaner. If I'd known how mad they were going to get at a joke about eye makeup, I would have told the meaner jokes that I cut so they could get mad at something that was actually valid. But also knowing what the administration has done and what they continue to do, I would have really gone in on them in the press more and tried to hold them more accountable. Michelle Wolf is now living in Europe, splitting time between Barcelona and London. What she likes about Spain, there's no worry of shooting. I feel like that's a big one. Never having to do a school shooting drill. That just feels like a nice thing to not have to teach your children. Michelle believes in poking fun at both sides. She says you could say anything. People are going to get maybe mad at you for saying it. Even if you have a well-constructed argument, people might still get mad at you. You're free to say something, and people are free to be mad at it. Switching topics, all those podcast bros that had Trump on and got him the presidency, I feel like now maybe they're walking back on platforming, but it's like, you knew who this guy was. They oftentimes put information out there. They either don't know if it's true or not or don't care. And they don't realize that they have a responsibility. Millions of people listen to you, and whether you want it or not, they believe what you say. So many of those guys went to the inauguration, and they just think it's cool to be up there. And I'm like, it's gross. For me, personally, no matter what the side was, I wouldn't want to be pals with the president, whether they're a Democrat or Republican. They're droning children. George Carlin always did a really good job of calling out the political power rather than being pals with anybody. Would she return to the White House Correspondents' Dinner? If they did invite me, I'd be happy to go. I just think they'd have to know what to expect. But sure, give me that platform. I'll do another roast. Michelle Wolf, living in Europe. I did squeeze some specials in between the soccer games. Been watching a lot of soccer. Ryan Hamilton's special is fantastic. I think I'm going to do my updated list on Sunday at the time of this sentence. I haven't seen Louis C.K. yet, but I think Sunday I'll do the midway through the year list, holiday weekend and all. You know how the show goes. But Ryan Hamilton's special is fantastic, and the folks in the Facebook group seem to agree with me. So if you haven't watched Ryan Hamilton on Netflix, very, very funny special. I also switched over to Des Bishop on Hulu, and I think, Des was a great guest, good guy, want to hang out with him, guy from Queens. But I think what we've seen of the Hulu specials is the Hulu specials are just not up to the quality of the Netflix specials. Des's special's fine. I didn't stay with it that long because I've been doing this long enough that I know the difference between a great special and a fine special, and that one's fine. Trevor Noah has been praised by his fans after pointing out bias towards African and Middle Eastern teams during the World Cup. Trevor Noah was sharing his thoughts on World Cup Watch Party, which apparently is on YouTube. I haven't checked the numbers, but I haven't seen much buzz about it. Let's look. Let's see how that's doing. All right, the South Africa versus Canada game from Sunday got 298,000 views. England versus Ghana got 208,000 views. Germany and Ivory Coast got 231. All right, so he's doing, mid-230s. While we're here, let's see how those YouTube late-night shows are doing. I can't remember what these are called. All right, Outside Tonight with Julian Shapiro Brainham. It is 1:26 p.m. on Monday as I say this sentence. Oh, boy. He had on Gianmarco Ceresi 4 days ago as I speak this sentence, and that has done 6,300 views. That is not a good number. The premiere, which is 11 days ago as I speak this sentence, is up to 16,000. Those are not good numbers. And what's the other one? I can't remember what the other one is called. Ben Glebe. I'm never going to remember that. Good Night with Ben Glebe, an episode from 13 days ago, has 708,000 views. So that's 3 times what Trevor Noah is doing, sort of, kind of. And Good Night, episode 5, the guest Dutton Ranch's Natalie Allen Lind, comedian Drew Lynch, 64,000. I don't know, are these good numbers? They don't sound amazing. I digress. Trevor Noah was sharing his thoughts about the World Cup and said, why is it that African teams and Middle Eastern teams have to answer for what their governments and countries are doing, but then European teams don't have to do this? Not sure what his point was there, or who he's mad at, or which country should be answering for what. The specific comment here seems to be about Iran having to leave the United States after each game. Send your letters to Trevor Noah. David Letterman will make his debut at the Montreal Just for Laughs Comedy Festival. He will host an evening with David Letterman and special guest Will Arnett at the Place des Arts. That is how it is pronounced in French. Place des Arts Concert Hall, July 21st. That's the Tuesday. I don't know what I'm doing yet. So I screwed up. You know the big free Weird Al concert that's on Saturday, July 25th? Well, my daughter was like, hey, why don't you come visit me? When? July 25th. Sure, I'll be there, because, your daughter asked you to visit, and you're like, yeah, I'll go. And then I was like, oh, that's when the Weird Al concert is. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go up for Letterman on the Tuesday night and stay for the Wednesday and do New Faces. I'm also considering not going at all. I don't know. So again, this is an evening with David Letterman and special guest, which is totally different from his Netflix series, My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. So we'll see. That is your comedy news for today. We're doing okay into the holiday here, right? We've had pretty robust shows this week. Feeling all right so far. As I record this, I haven't gotten all the Louis C.K. think pieces yet, so I imagine that'll be Thursday's show. So we're doing okay. Doing all right. And it's July now, so you don't have to share the show anymore. In fact, you're not allowed to share the show. If you're like, oh, the show's so good, I got to tell someone. Nope. You had a month. You could have shared it. You didn't. Now you're not allowed. See you tomorrow.